Jordan. Open. Chicago with the lead. Court. Batista with the catch. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life. Hand down, man down.
Yeah, I can see how disrespectful he's being right there.
No, I went to Temecula and brought you some dirt.
Yep, that's a technical.
Mama, there goes that man.
Welcome back to The Bounce, brought to you proudly by Bite Size Sports. I am Kev, but that's not really important right now because we have with us today my co-host and the one person that I know since opening day that has said it was always the Nuggets. So I'm going to play producer for a few minutes. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, Kev, I'd love to go back and find when we first talked about it. That's a lot of hours to search through, but I said it a long time ago, man. I loved them. That was even when Jamal Murray wasn't playing back-to-backs, wasn't completely fully healthy. The Joker was on a tear. I said it then. I said it all year. Even the last month of the season when they were 500 and everybody's freaking out, jumping off the bandwagon, I was like, it's fine. It's like they're coasting in. They're like, this just is part of it right now. They're just bored. And I was correct. What did they lose? 4 or 5 losses all of the playoffs. Throughout the playoffs is all they had. They were dominant from start to finish this year. And the wild thing is they could run it completely back if they want to. I think Bruce Brown's a free agent. They have to re-sign him. But otherwise, every single player on that team can come back, is coming back next year. And you saw it at the parade today, Mike Malone, about 60 beers too many, but good for him. Talking about it.
Yeah.
The only one they want.
Did he say something along the lines of, speaking of the Lakers, I'm considering retirement? I saw some tweet about him making a Lakers joke.
Maybe he did. I don't know. There was a lot of great things today. The Nikola Jokic.
Oh.
I didn't want to be here, but now that I'm here, I never want to leave.
Yes, I like that. Both of our taglines, for those of you who don't know, or those of you listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we love you out there as well. Both of our headlines are in reference to Jokic quote from the week. Mine is the "No, I need to go home." Out about today's parade.
When's the parade? No, I need to go home. I just imagine Jokic's horses in their stall right now, just shedding tears because he hasn't made it back yet. He's been gone for so long.
He's playing Red Dead Redemption 2 in his hotel, just to, I mean, you know,
same names,
feel a little bit of home.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I am getting the. It's funny. Anytime you make a joke in favor of the Lakers on Twitter, everyone assumes that you are a Lakers fan. So I made the joke when a drunken, or allegedly, when a celebratory, there we go, that's the way we put it. When a celebratory Mike Malone made some Lakers comments, I put up some Tim and Eric awesome gif and said the Lakers have a beachfront property in Malone's mind, you know, and now I've just got all the vitriol of, you know, people reminding me that the Lakers got swept. I'm like, dude, it's just a joke, but it's been 2 weeks now. Why are you still talking about the dudes that you swept? Like,
I completely moved on. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, stop, Mike, stop bringing up the Lakers, man. Like, you were mad that everybody wanted to keep talking about it, but now every time you get a microphone in front of your mouth, all you want to talk about is the Lakers. So stop it. Tell me if that's not living rent free in your head, I don't know what is. You just won the title, you know? Come on,
baby.
You
just won the whole thing. Like, you're good, guys. You're good.
I agree with you on the run it back. I do think Bruce Brown might be gone.
He had a heck of a year for him.
Outside of Gabe Vincent, who's another playoff guy that's in line to potentially get a bag just because of their short run? Now, we know Bruce Brown, you know, big value. I thought it was a big blow to Brooklyn's potential before, you know, they just imploded upon themselves. But when they didn't re-sign him last year, it's like, oh man, like you can't find a way to bring Bruce Brown back. Like he's not a $20 million a year guy.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate it. Nobody believed. Nobody
It's true.
believed.
It's true. It's
Don't know-
true. Yeah.
Not sure why I didn't bet him. That was really dumb on my part. But we're
Speaking-
here, boys.
Yep, we're here. Yeah, next time you should lay it down. And at some point, we will talk about. We talked about that immediately following our series recap. Really, when Nate and I, after Game 5, talked about it, started to talk about what teams there are that
Mhm.
could contest for Denver and what they might have to do. So those are some things that we will probably talk about tonight. We've got a full slate.
Yeah.
Just with the free agent and potential trades alone. I mean, there's been breaking news today. So let me just prime you a little bit, get a little bit of
Mhm.
spoiler alerts going. We're going to talk Bradley Beal. We're going to talk Zach LaVine.
Yep.
We're going to, of course, we're going to talk about Fred VanVleet because we talked about it a lot on Tuesday, but we had to wait for James.
Yep. I couldn't be there Tuesday.
He's
Of course,
got,
the day I couldn't make it. They win the title, so
exactly. Yeah, of course. But hey, it gives us a chance to circle back on things like Chris Paul, things that happened a couple of days ago. You and I haven't had a chance to talk about, as well as Dame Lillard and his options. Also, I've seen a lot of Zion trades. We might talk about that tonight. We at some point will talk about Karl Anthony Towns and Pat Bev getting together on a podcast. And that, there's no better time for me to bring in Johnny NFL, who is
Special guest.
acknowledging that Cat changed the game.
tag I got.
Oh, you're good, Lord. All right, should we just start there? Should we just start with the Minnesota ridiculousness that's come out?
Christ, man. Yeah,
So-
I mean,
Kat and Patrick Beverly
Minnesota
were recently
guy.
on a podcast, and I have no idea what universe they're actually living in. It's not mine. I don't think it's the one you guys are in as well.
I'd like to
Nope.
visit a dispensary near wherever
Yeah, there
Cat
are
was at.
multiple bangers in there. First one, my favorite, is their playoff run last year was more impressive than the Nuggets championship run this year.
best one, I think.
Did they
Need
make
a
it to
pen
the
for
second
this.
round last year? Is that right?
No.
No,
Oh, they lost the first
they
round?
won a play-in game, and Pat Bev threw his jersey in the crowd, and that's when people like myself maybe played the Titanic theme over it. The "You're here." It's like they act
Oh.
like Kirby Puckett didn't act that way when he hit a home run in Game 7 of the World Series.
That was
Pat
his
Bev's.
one shining moment.
Yeah, like what was there was the other ones. There was
I could score 40 a night if you let me call the plays. That was
Yeah.
a good one. Which
Let me control the game how I want to.
yeah.
we'll lose by 30, but I'll score 40.
when
Yeah.
Cat retires, they're gonna look back and say he changed the game.
That one was good.
Definitely with
the-
his defense.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads to mine, which won't be like the big hot button one. It's not nearly as quotable as these other ones. But when he started to talk about how Denver, he's like, they were calling all of our plays, and they'd have a guy, he'd catch it, and then boom, and there'd be a guy who just came out of nowhere. Where'd that guy come from to catch
Randomly,
it?
he said.
I'm
Yeah.
like, it sounds like they scouted you, and you've never seen a scouting report in your entire life. Is what I got out of that.
What the heck, man?
What do you mean
Or-
he came out of nowhere? That's not how basketball works. Doctor Strange is not on the court.
Yeah.
Crazy. They've just been together so long that they cut backdoor.
Whoa! Holy
Oh,
crap.
we were only
You get
together.
overplayed high side, you go back door. Whoa, that is.
Whoa.
I have never heard that before. Holy crap, my
skipped-
mind is blown.
I
right
It was
skipped
now.
bad.
JV. That's what happens when you go straight to varsity. When you're too talented
Yeah.
that nobody coaches you. And you're like, oh, wait, what? There's levels to this? Huh?
My
No.
goodness, man. Well, that was something, huh? They
Well, and
really
that's what
made
they
Minnesota proud there, Johnny.
The-
Well, another thing that Pat Bev said was they posed the question, who's the best big in the league? And they were like, Embiid, Jokic, Towns, and he's like, I'm taking Cat. And it's
He's like,
like,
I know you're not gonna like my answer.
We
because
did it.
I'm taking myself, which I mean, internally between the ears, you got to feel that way. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't even. Is he
I
in
feel
your
like-
top 5?
I feel like that's a question you kind of just have to deflect and just be like, "Hey, those are some great."
Oh, that one went over the head.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like you
That's
just
what
have
you-
to hit it with like
yeah.
a GM style non-answer.
Yes.
You say, well, Embiid and Jokic are the last two MVP winners, and I feel like I can give them a shot any day of the week. I think I can hang with those guys, but obviously, it's easy to do. Just watch some Andrew Luck tape and be like, yeah, I mean, just yeah, there's some great guys, and yeah, I just play real hard, and yeah, I just love being here. I love playing basketball.
Yeah, that was a great hit he had. It was oh my god, dude.
I
His,
changed the
like,
game. I'm the best big shooting man of all time.
That his to say that, like they're gonna look
And I
back and
feel
say
like-
he changed the game is
to like isolate that part of it, I feel like he is just sort of captive to right now, where he feels like at this instant he's the most dynamic shooting big, right? But no one's going to ever look back at, 2018 to 2023 as the inflection point of the shooting big man.
No.
Like everyone would say, it was Dirk,
Mhm.
or it was, whomever else before that. If it's the KG Midi,
Yeah.
it's
Danny
it's
Manning.
from three. It's Danny Manning. It's Bill
Yeah.
Laimbeer. It's Bill
Say
Laimbeer.
he's the guy, like, come on, man.
There's no like that. Yeah, that can't be the inflection point of like, oh, now bigs are shooting. Like the game was already getting there. We had Spencer Hawes come out 15
Oh yeah.
years ago.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like he's just in a cluster of like where everybody's shooting. Like he mixes in the step back. And he might be one of the more dynamic shooting big men, but like I think it's either going to be, you trace it back to a guy like Dirk, you go further back, or you're looking at a guy like, Victor Wembanyama, who's actually handling at the top of the key.
Yeah,
And
also, don't you have to win games? Like, isn't
You
there
gotta
part
win
of winning?
you
Like,
got to win games.
winning the play-in doesn't cut it, buddy.
Somebody
That's
said he's
so weird.
Somebody
But
said
it's
he's
different because they
unbeatable.
only had 4 months to get together. That's why it's more special. The Nuggets had 4 years
Big
and only
difference.
2 major knee injuries to overcome.
Yeah.
And they came together in 4 months and won 1 playoff game. So it's better.
They literally had 1 year healthy together, and they just did it. Like they were never together for 4 years. Gordon was a deadline move last year,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
But oh man, dude, it was bad. It's like a lot of like secondhand. I don't even know if embarrassment's the right term. It's a lot of secondhand like.
Yeah, it's
That's hard.
something, man.
Guy, god damn it. Like
It is.
Yeah, it's like he couldn't. They couldn't change the. I just keep thinking of the Rudy Gobert, because James, we talked about this a lot early in the season
Mhm.
when they had Gobert and Towns and Edwards, and they couldn't figure out anything offensively.
Yes,
And
their
I'm like,
offense was just so bad. Like
you couldn't
we were
adapt
gonna-
to a
our plan
second
was to do-
7-footer on the court.
Yeah, our plan was to deep dive it at some point, and then he got hurt.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and they never got to play together.
We were going
The
to talk about how
offense didn't-
bad it was.
yeah, the offense didn't start to go until the Conley trade.
Yeah. Mhm.
Which I mean, yeah,
You start to
your
make
offense is going to go with Mike Conley's running it. you know?
Yep. So I don't know. Again, I mean, I was just telling you guys in the Discord how the finals matchup seems sort of like this beacon of like, hey, franchises, be a little bit more patient.
Yes.
Let things come together a little
Mhm.
bit. But the Wolves situation right now, like, it's hard for me to like. I'm really in between like the oh my god, trade Cat, see what you can get back, build
Mhm.
around Ant, Gobert's sunk cost. But there's another part of me that's like, okay, give it a healthy year together, see if
Just
they
to
gel.
see.
You got to see it once. Connolly's grand plan. But yeah, I'm like very on the fence between those two extremes right now, where
Mhm.
it's like oh
It's a
my
tough
god,
place to live
like,
too.
never gonna work. But then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, see if it works. There's a lot of talent, but Jesus, man, he does not. I grew up with Kevin Garnett as the guy,
Yeah.
and he is just so not Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Too much Marbury, not enough Garnett.
Not even
Too much
close.
Marbury.
He is not
Exactly.
even
And apparently
close.
too much Wally Zerbiak, but late age
Yeah.
Wally Zerbiak.
Maybe a little too much Wally. Yeah, Jokic is a fake all-star. I'm the best big.
Oh god. Did you guys? So here's a fun one. Did you guys see who gave the Joker his nickname? I didn't know this until I accidentally came across it this week.
Mm-mm.
Mike Miller gave it to him.
Let's go.
They played together for a year, and he couldn't say his last name, so he just started calling him the Joker.
That's awesome.
I had
Mike
no
Miller.
idea. Yeah, I was like, well, that's a random. It seems
And-
like then Mike Miller's been everywhere. He's been an assistant coach at college.
Yeah.
He's been everywhere.
Timberwolves legend.
Yeah.
And infamous nickname of his own, old skinny Mike Miller coming out of college. Yeah, not a nickname I would have wanted, but yeah, great. God, man, that I am having some throwback highlights playing.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
an old pixelated highlight reel going off in my head. Mike
He
Miller,
had so much heart.
Miami Heat, Mike Miller.
exactly.
Idletown,
Yep.
baby.
Yep. Oh,
Miller and Battier just in the Robert
Mhm.
Horry echelon of role playing forwards.
Yep. Oh my God, Shane Battier,
Oh.
what a guy.
that's the part that used to drive you nuts about that Heat team. It wasn't just that they had LeBron and Wade, and I honestly was never. To me, Chris Bosh was always the third. To me, Chris
Oh,
Bosh
yeah.
was finally where he belonged in Miami. Someone had to score 20 points on that Toronto team back then. Mo Peterson, hello, hi. But then they had Battier and Mike Miller, and then freaking Ray
Rashard
Allen,
Lewis.
Rashard Lewis.
Oh, my favorite.
A 20 and 10 guy,
Chris
close to town. I don't
Anderson.
know about
They had the Birdman.
Birdman.
Don't man the
Oh,
Birdman.
It's like, I hear things about now how they can't do the mid-level exception or the vet minimum. They're going to be. I don't know the exact tweaks to the cap, but I'm like, oh man, some of these great teams we saw
Yep.
put together won't be able to do that as
Yep.
much anymore. I mean, the league has really priced. I mean, there are guys right now playing overseas that I swear 10 years ago would have been filling up championship and conference finals rosters. It's just the way that it's set now. You're highly incentivized to just keep that younger player on the roster. He's going to be cheaper. You're not going to go into the luxury tax, and we're losing some of that, which, I mean, hey, now that 3-on-3 is an Olympic sport, let's just keep filling the big threes ranks, I guess. I'll keep tuning in, but yeah, sorry, I took us on a tangent there. You guys, the Miami Heat, the old Miami Heat talks got me going.
You're
and since we're
good.
talking about
Since we're here, Kev, let's do it.
the Miami Heat, I heard a rumor that the $251 million man, Bradley Beal, is highly active with the front office as the Wizards are, I guess, kicking the tires on a complete rebuild. And they have promised Bradley Beal that if they go that route, they'll keep him in the loop. Well, that might have something to do with his no trade clause. So with all that in mind, it's unprecedented that 1 year into a $250 million extension or new contract that we're here. But it feels like Bradley Beal might be on the move. John, we'll start with you, our guest. What are your thoughts on this, just in general? And maybe we'll talk about potential trade partners here.
So it's goofily similar to me to the Aaron Rodgers reneging and staying in Green Bay and then being like, all right, never mind. This is because he still had, I think, 3 years, 150 mil, 1 year into the extension, kind of the same feeling where it's like the opportunity for Beal to go chase winning was, I mean, he's been in trade rumors for 2 straight years, 3 straight years, maybe even at this point. And could really tip the scales for a lot of teams out there, you feel like. But he held on. got the Supermax, go for it. But now he's sitting there and he's like, well, when is the winning play going to show up now that I signed my Supermax? And then he's like, oh, I guess maybe it won't. And then front office wants to pivot all of a sudden. Like, I get it. He's going to have that contract wherever he goes. The no trade clause is transferable to the new team. So he has autonomy wherever he goes.
This is why I was saying what I was saying in Discord about we might be surprised at how if he is traded, it might not be a very good return.
Is he the only NBA player with a no trade clause?
Yes. At least that's my understanding.
That's sick.
I've seen it reported that way. So
there have been 12 no trade clauses in history.
How do you know that? How do you know that? You literally just roll the computer back in your head and just spout it off. And I don't know if you're right or wrong, but I 100% believe it. I
heard it. I heard it somewhere. And the names on that list are ridiculous. It's Kevin Garnett, the Mello with the Knicks. Just huge
history. Let's see.
Huge crazy names where Beal is just several tiers below. These are MVP caliber players for the most part. So it's just a goofy situation. And they might not get a great return, which is why, we talked about Lillard briefly, potentially going to the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
I love Beal to the Heat because it seems like they need just a little bit more on-ball creation. They've got a lot of shooting, but when Jimmy's kind of your only facilitator, and Beal took a huge step forward as a facilitator the last time Wall went down, was doing a lot of his work.
6.6 assists 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of his work on the ball, and I think you just got to toe that line of and there are a lot of teams that I think are in play for him, but say it is the Heat, you've really got to toe that line between, are we giving up too much of our identity to get a guy like this? Are we being impatient? Is this gonna delineate from the Heat culture we've got going? Are we gonna give up 3 of these undrafted guys we hit on to bring in a
definitely
2 of them are free
up.
agents? Vincent and Strus are free agents.
Vincent Strus.
Probably not bringing them back if you're bringing on Beal's contract.
Yeah. You're also not going to sign them and trade them right away.
If you can do a Hero and Jovic and some future picks.
What about Hero and Duncan Robinson and the 18 pick? That's what I think it was Bobby Marks, maybe? Yeah. Somebody put that out there on Twitter. At first I laughed at it, and then I realized the price on Beal's contract, and I was like, oh, yeah,
I would really want to keep Duncan. I feel like you try to go in that case. You probably try to keep Duncan. You try to go Lowry if he opts in. Go Lowry and Hero and some assets, and then hopefully you've got bird rights on Vincent, and you can bring him back.
Yeah, I don't know what the details are on those guys. I don't know how they're.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think if they go that route, I think Strus and Vincent are just gone. I think if you go the Beal route, you have to accept that you're losing Strus and Vincent on top of whoever you sell, on top of whoever you send back to the Wizards.
So your depth's gone. I don't like that.
I'm not a big fan of it either. James, before I have a follow-up question on this topic, but I haven't asked you what's your takeaway on this? Do you think based on what we've talked about, would Beal be a good fit here?
I'm worried he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't played an 82-game season since 2018-19. He's 2 years removed from averaging 31 a game. He averaged 23.2 the last 2 seasons. That's kind of wild, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged He played 40 games 2 years ago, 50 this year, 63 years ago. He did average that's the thing I missed when going through his stats is he did average 6.6 assists 2 years ago, 5.4 this year. I was going back and just comparing him and Hero and trying to find the differences. Beal averaged 21, Hero 20. They shoot it almost identical. Heroes like 1% better. But Beal does bring more of a playmaking aspect. But then Tyler Hero is also 6 years younger.
Yeah.
Man, that contract is big.
It really is.
Like
It
I
really
don't
is.
know how to say anything else about that other than God.
Yeah.
How long?
So
is
it's
that
only
contract?
the 10th no trade clause. Listen to
The names are. He is definitely below everybody. I pulled the list of it's sick.
the other names are Melo, Kobe, Duncan, KG, LeBron, Dirk, David Robinson, John Stockton, and Dwayne Wade.
How about that? Of the 5,000 players, over 5,000 players that have signed an NBA contract, less than 0.01% have a no trade clause. And you could argue like all those other guys belong together. Like I'd hear that argument. There's not really any of them. I'd be like, maybe Melo would be a step below him because he didn't have any titles, but
Yeah.
I guess neither does Stockton. But Bradley Beal is by far and away much, much lower.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Stockton in a vacuum without Malone on his teammate all those years, I might say like he might be the only one that I would have said, okay, he might not be in the same, but then all-time assist leader.
Yeah,
I mean,
all-time assist
I
and
can't
steal
take
leader.
away who he did play with and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, he was the point guard at that time. So it is pretty interesting. It just goes to show you the situation that the Wizards have been in. You know, they have not been good.
I pulled up
very
Bradley Beal's contract, and oh my God, guys.
That's wild.
Scary.
He's got 4 years left. The last year is a player option, so you're locked in. If you make this trade, you've got 3 for sure. $46.7 million this year, $50.2 million next year. 2 years from now, it's 53.66, and then 4 years if he would opt in, which I would assume he's going to be 33. Like I'm sure he's taking this. $57 million. That's disgusting.
That's nuts.
Doesn't
What's
sound like-
Dame's
doesn't sound like Miami to me.
Dame's last year of his deal? I think it's like 62 or something.
I'll look him up.
I feel like it's slightly more. But so while we're on this topic a little bit, the one thing I wanted to be sure to ask you guys before I got out of here was, you feel like Beal's going to a contender, right? And I guess, if he goes to Sacramento, that probably makes them a contender. That's probably like the lowest quality team I've heard rumored for a Beal move. Because I've heard the Philly, I've heard Miami, Sacramento's another one I've heard. But like, is he part of the formula that really starts to push Denver this upcoming season? So I guess my, shorter version of that question is, what do you guys feel like a team to ultimately beat Denver next year, a team that would knock them off the mountaintop? What do you think that team looks like? Whether that's specific players or it's just what they're able to do on the offensive and defensive end to contend with Denver, because it's going to be the same team. Maybe Bruce Brown doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Maybe they're based out of Bruce Brown, but they just re-signed Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon. The big four of this team are locked up for at least 3 more years. And then the bones of the bench unit as well. Christian Brown, obviously, rookie. A lot of those guys that could get back vet min for the real back of that bench. And whoever else they fit around, I'm sure will be similarly effective in small roles around that group. So what do you feel like needs to be taken away in order to beat them in a 7-game series? Do you think the Lakers have enough to get there? Do you think the Warriors mix it back up and can push them? Because right now they're the odds-on favorites right now. They're like plus 500 when the books opened up. That's what I was curious about to hear from the experts. What do other teams need to do to keep up? Is it just all you got to do is just get Cat?
Yeah, and let him
But
call
what
the
if
plays.
the Nuggets traded for Cat? Then the world would explode. They'd win 10 straight.
Well, the thing about like if the Wolves were gonna figure something out to do it, like you're not having Cat at like you don't have the advantage of Cat pulling Jokic out and dancing
Yeah.
out because you still got Rudy at the 5, so Jokic can
Yep.
still sit in his like high drop where he's just playing the pocket pass, or he was just destroying in the playoffs. He had like I think he had 8 deflections or 7 deflections in game 4. That was kind of the final nail in the coffin, frankly. Like they weren't losing 3 in a row. When they took 4 in Miami, it was like, all right, there we go. But is that part of the formula? Do you need a stretch 5? Is it a 5-out kind of thing to attack them because they were so good defensively? Like, what can you do on the defensive side
Yeah,
in this 2-man game? Like,
that's the question. Is it do you focus offense or defense because they're loaded both ways? Like, you got to be big and long. Like, all their guys are huge. Outside of Murray, and Murray's like 6'2". He's not small. All those guys are big with length.
That was the big problem for Miami.
Yeah, Miami had a huge problem there. It helps that'll help with defensive versatility. Like, you do need somebody's got to be able to frustrate Jokic somehow,
Yeah,
and
you need at least one guy who can switch.
Yep.
When they play that 2-man game, you'd like to be able to have one of those athletic stretch 4s type body types that is going to be able to fight through a screen or whatever. No matter the switch, is not going to be so much of a mismatch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then offensively, you got to be able to score too. So you're suddenly asking a ton. But I mean, you're talking about winning the title. Like it's important. You got the Aaron Gordon problem was a problem for everybody in the playoffs. He took everybody's best player and just evaporated them.
Yep.
Like the Heat in Game 2 started Kevin Love, and that made Aaron Gordon go off Jimmy and played on K Love for a bit, which helped. Like it's a lot. I think it starts with length. Like you gotta be able to find some length. Yep. You have to be long.
Yeah, that's where they make it so difficult because whether it's Gordon or if Michael Porter Jr. had been anywhere near on those finals, like this would have been
sweep.
Like remember that Spurs Heat finals that was just disgusting, like disgustingly lopsided. This would have been that if Michael Porter could have just hit his jump shots. He was so open. That's the thing. Like normally you can't get lazy on any of those guys in their starting 5 because who's the other one? KCP. You don't want to leave him open in the corner either.
A heater.
Yeah, and he didn't do much honestly throughout different stretches in the playoffs. But for me, this is what I jotted down. And maybe as I say these things, we'll see if any teams currently come to mind. But you need front court depth to beat the Nuggets. You're not going to do it without having multiple bodies to throw at Gordon and Jokic. Defense, James already hit this one. Defense, versatile wings is what I had here. But yes, you need length, speed, and strength in order to guard all the different ways this team's going to come at you. You're going to need a team first mentality because it's going offensively. You can't be a one-man band. You got to be able to hit the Nuggets the way that they hit you. You're going to need multiple players in the double digits, which goes into my next point. You need depth in order to beat Denver. This is where, in a fantasy world, I would have loved to have seen the Bucks be able to make in-game adjustments and get out of the first round.
Yeah.
Because I think depth-wise, a team like Milwaukee, if we're talking about next year, if their coaching improves, okay, they could probably give Denver a run for their money because they have multiple players come at you from multiple angles and they can play a little
big,
defense.
long, athletic. Yep.
And that's what gets me to my final point. You need a great head coach who's going to make in-game adjustments because I promise you, if Eric Spoelstra had a little more front court depth, that series might have been pushed to 7. They just had no defensive answer for the Nuggets. So despite having one of the best in-game adjusters that walks the earth right now, there wasn't really much that Miami could do. So that to me, those are I think 5 or 6 big things that I think a team has to have if they're going to knock Denver off. I think there are plenty of teams in this league, or at least a handful, that have 4 of those things that maybe over the offseason can, or maybe already have. When we talk about Milwaukee, when we talk about Philly, did they get the right coach now in place to make these adjustments? I don't know. So I don't know. Anybody stick out with those, John? Any teams come to mind that you're like, all right, well maybe these guys will give them a run.
Yeah, so for me, it's tough not to start at least with Miami, just because we saw the matchups just play
Mhm.
out, and I loved what they were able to do with Bam against that 2-man game. I mean, obviously they straight up blitzed it sometimes. They had Bam sink a little bit at times to kind of play the drive, and had Vincent or whomever it was kind of top lock either the Jokic pop or Murray if he tried to get to his 3 ball. They did the late switch kind of stuff, where they had the double team kind of trail Jamal Murray towards whatever corner and then sprinting back to Jokic, and they threw like the kitchen sink at him. So it was super fun to see Spoelstra just like get deep into his bag in that regard.
Mhm.
And I think he kind of figured out what you need to do to contend with those guys, but he didn't have access to who you need to do it with.
Yep.
I think Bam is the perfect 5 for that.
Yep.
But if you're thinking just defensively, like you might need like a redundancy be damned. You might need like a Jared Vanderbilt at the 4 to really be able to mess with what they do offensively from a length and a lateral quickness perspective, and to give you some extra rim protecting juice, which you really don't have outside of Bam. And I guess
Can't be Love and Zeller.
Yeah, and a lot of times your backside help is Jimmy when Bam's up top in the action.
Caleb Martin, occasionally.
Caleb Martin, yeah. Like I think if you had, more guys like that on the defensive end, then you probably can give them some more trouble. But then it becomes like the most points scored in this whole series were 111, and that was in the one Heat win. They could not keep up on the offensive side. And so like if you lean more into, okay, let's see if we can stop them. Let's get a Vanderbilt. Let's trade for Jonathan Isaac, the much maligned Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
Then you're worried about
maybe.
offensive creation again. And because you have to go back at them on the other end, and they're really solid defensively. So that's one team. Philly is one that's interesting if they get all the way there, because obviously you've got Embiid and Jokic, and kind of cancel out. Those are the 2 best centers in the league. They're going to give it back to each other on the offensive end. Embiid can hold his own on defense, although you don't want him drug out of the paint too much. But that roster could be so different by the time we get to next season. You might have no Harden, and then if you bring, if they're in play for Beal, is not quick. I almost said Emmanuel quickly. Who's their little combo guard? Completely Tyrese Maxey.
Tyrese Maxey. I kept wanting to say Mobley. I was like, it's not Mobley.
I almost said Moses Moody. And then you run into like, I don't know, there's a little redundancy there too. Neither are great defenders. Like, you need a beautiful offseason. But I think the Bucks, and I guess I've only named Eastern Conference teams so far. They're probably gonna win
I
the
don't,
game.
but that's the thing. Like the West, like
The Bucks have the bones though. When you've got Drew and Giannis and a healthy
Mhm.
playoff Chris Middleton and a Brooke Lopez who can drag you out.
Bobby
they've got a
Portis,
lot of options. Bobby Portis. Like,
You've got to get they only need a couple of tweaks and some health. And I think they're a really good matchup.
Yeah, a couple things
Where's the
didn't
West
work.
goes?
Like move on from Wes Matthews, maybe move on from Pat Connaughton, and unfortunately for Pat, it might be injury's sake. Wes, I think, is just a little older, not as valuable. But yeah, I mean, they just have a couple of pieces there to add. Now, I would say on the West, it'll be interesting to see, but based on my little checklist, if the Golden State Warriors can get a little front court depth, they might be the best team to take Denver down.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of other teams right now. But to answer the Lakers question as it popped up, no way, no how. I don't see any
world
moves
where
that they're
can,
making. Yeah.
If you
They're
bring back
hamstrung a
Reeves,
little
go
bit.
ahead. Like, I don't see it. The Grizzlies, they're going to be dealing with the Ja Morant problem. He's going to be suspended for a long time, which I assume that's got to be announced before the draft, right? Because it is going to affect what they do.
I don't know. You think Silver will milk it longer? You think in a week he'll be
could.
like, I haven't at the NBA draft, he'll announce that there will be an announcement.
Like, I believe he's getting
We didn't
suspended.
want to distract from everything, so I'm here at a podium saying,
Yeah.
let's not distract from it. We'll tell you about it later. That's not
I
distracting. is it?
expect Ja to be suspended for like half the season, like 41 games. I think it's going to be massive.
I
when
could
he
see it. Yeah, I could see 50.
When
Like
he
a
came
nice
out and
even
said,
50.
we already know, we've got more evidence, we're not going to talk about it until after the finals because we don't take away from this team. My eyes went, ugh.
Yeah,
That's
that's what I
bad.
said when I did my little reaction to the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, these things he's saying right now, I
Not
don't believe
good.
he'd be saying them if the evidence they found exonerated Ja.
Yeah.
It just not the way I think he would. It's a funny way to phrase it if you're about to say this guy's innocent, and everybody, all these people who have had these different stories, they've all been lying for clout or for money. If that was the big reveal, I don't think that the commissioner would have said certain phrases the way that he said them when he made that announcement of his announcement.
Phrasing, Adam. Phrasing.
Yeah. You think Adam Silver makes a Horcrux every time he doles out punishment? He looks like he's got a few.
Oh, yeah. It's a little voodoo doll he's poking.
Did you guys get your email from Adam Silver this week?
I did. I was very excited today that he sent me a personal email with my name in. That was very nice of him.
Yeah.
I noticed it was from a very interesting email address, but thanks, Adam, for really thinking of me and Kev today.
Yep. I loved Michael's tweet was the better learn Chinese, buddy. He's like,
Yeah, that was great.
This was the body of the email. Yeah, sending me off.
Did you see Austin Reeves is about to sign a shoe deal with a Chinese company?
I did see that.
Yes.
Any speculation? Do you think this has any possibility? Are we going to see him go and play in China instead? I bet he could secure a lot of money over there.
He's going to He's going to secure a lot of money here, bud.
Yeah, I think he will.
Somebody's going to overpay him big time. To go to Lee's comment, I don't know anything about baseball. All I know is that something's going on with the Oakland A's, and they threw a reverse boycott. And Manfred's comments today looked really dumb. I read them. I was like, oh, that's the commissioner saying that about a current team? Like, oh, that's bad.
He does say dumb things a lot. I don't even know what he said.
He was talking like, so the Oakland A's threw like a reverse boycott. They came in 27,000 fans showed up the other day. They were all wearing T-shirts that said "sell" on it. And they did a moment of silence, they just sat there. The whole place was just eerily quiet as the game started. And then the whole game, they're chanting, sell the team, sell the team. And Manfred was talking about, I don't know if it was the A's deal they offered, like the city and how they just got cleared in Vegas. And whatever he said, it was just like, oh my God, this is really bad. This sounds really bad. It was not good.
So I think that was the fans' whole point, was that the market wasn't the problem. It was that the team has been run poorly, and that's why people aren't going to games. Not that
and the owners
were never going to games.
The idiot is what it sounds like.
I don't remember that plot line in Moneyball when they were like, yeah, the stadium's empty, even though we keep winning with Chris Pratt at first base. Nobody's coming to the games.
Again, I don't know anything, so I just know they were good in 19 and 20, 2 years in a row, and then they sold off all their crappy players or all their good players. They just sold them off for crap. I think they have the lowest payroll in baseball. They just tanked. They raised ticket prices on them while they were doing this. And it's like, oh, you don't know why your fans hate you. Oh, okay. I have no idea.
Just slide them a VHS of Major League and then see if they figure it out. Like, this is you. They'll do a little cardboard cutout of you next and see if they can't win the team back. But we had some questions in here before I move us on.
There's a good one.
Lee has one here. How could the GM be so taken by Bradley Beal's agent to give that no trade clause? That is a great question. That's, I mean,
guy's a baller.
Does that sort of reek of Washington's desperation, right? Like, you see teams get put in these situations. The Pacers always trade that guy away because it happens almost any time they trade someone of that level caliber. It's like, all right, maybe you'll get Danny Granger or Paul George to sign one extension, but they're not signing two. if you aren't winning. And then the Pacers thankfully have come out on top of most of those trades most of the time. But yeah, I think in this situation, Washington just felt, I guess, not confident in their own drafting ability. I don't blame them there. But yeah, they
Jan Vesely.
Who was it? The Wisconsin kid. Who'd they draft? Johnny Davis this year,
Johnny
9th
Davis.
overall.
Yeah, they yikes. So I guess
Yeah.
you gotta keep the one you hit, like no matter
Yeah.
what the cost. I guess the cost is a no trade clause.
And we also see from Lee are
this
the
one
Celtics.
is. I think you have to pay Jaylen Brown. I think you pay
I
him,
think so too.
and as I think you're not going to get near as much in return. I think you chalk it up to first-year head coach, a lot of problem. Like he speaking of bad in-game adjustments in the playoffs, he didn't actually have in-game adjustments.
Mhm.
But I think you have to run it.
He hasn't
I don't
opened
see
that
anywhere-
skill tree yet.
They're they're 26 and 25. Like,
Yeah,
you know, what if you just kept T-Mac and Vince Carter together? What if you just
Mhm.
kept? What if Grant Hill was healthy in Orlando and you had those two? You know, you saw. What if LeBron and Wade got together sooner? They're not
Yeah.
quite that caliber, but
they're
like
pretty good.
when you have two wings like that are just it's still ascending, I'm sure. You know,
Yeah,
look,
they
Jaylen
can
Brown
get
has
better.
a few months to tighten his handle up here. Like,
Yeah.
we're-
He'll-
it's tough to move
he'll
on. From
refine
either of
his-
those.
I don't know.
refine his jump
Neither of
shot.
them's an alpha, and if you don't have an alpha, I think maybe you should trade Jason Tatum for Andrew Wiggins. And
I thought you were doing a
that'll
Jordan
fix it.
Peterson for a second.
It's
I was-
my Jordan Peterson and my Colin Cowherd kind of
Mixed
blend
together.
together a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, I haven't done a Colin in a long time. I don't listen to
Yeah.
him. It's very hard for me to listen to him anymore. So I don't have
Mhm.
his his voice in my ear.
Jaylen Brown's
anymore.
got the alpha, but he doesn't have the talent. Tatum's the better player, but he's got no alpha.
Yep. That's
Just it just boils it down to that.
I run that thing completely back. I'm bringing Danilo
100%.
Gallinari. He opted in today to his player options. He'll be
He
back
was-
for him next year.
If he was healthy, that could have been a huge piece for
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
I was listening to
I always forget about him.
who was I listening to? Like Matt Barnes, maybe the All the Smoke podcast. It was a former player who was saying he feels like they need a good high caliber two-way power forward
That's him.
to get into that mix because you got Bob Williams. I think Horford will be back. You've got your lob threat, your rim protector, rim runner.
And your elite shooter in Al Horford.
You've got your elite. You got the best shooter on the team in Al Horford. You've got ancillary pieces like Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon to handle the ball when it's not going right through Tatum and Brown. So, you know, maybe you lose a little bit of defensive juice with Gallo out there. You can also get super small with Gallo out there and have Gallo at the 5 for spurts. Tatum at the 4, Brown at the 3, and then all of a sudden you get Derek White and Marcus Smart out there can switch onto bigs if he really wants to. He's so sturdy and he can poke the ball out in the post. Like, you can get really creative with the pieces they already have, and just Gallinari coming back, and then, you know, a couple vet mins, and maybe that's in, like, you can't.
Don't
it's-
overreact. Don't overreact.
Don't overreact, guys. They've been to 4 conference finals as a
Yes.
duo.
They've made the finals. Like,
They've
Don't
made the finals.
out.
Clearly, something's broken.
Yeah, like it's okay. Do
grass
you
isn't
want
always greener on
to-
the other side.
Yeah. Do you want to keep your nose to the grindstone, like say the Miami Heat, say the Denver Nuggets,
Perfect.
get
There you
everybody
go.
healthy, keep running it back? Or do you want to just kick your tires like the 76ers and say, oh shit, that didn't work for 5 months.
Who we trading for now? Who's next?
Yeah. Yeah, like
Fire the coach. Bring who we doing? Yeah,
fire the coach.
That's exactly
Um,
right. No,
I mean, and they're the prime example of that. Like, there's always this so much roster turnover to the point that it's self-deprecating. Like you're not giving
Mhm.
your group enough time to gel, grow as a unit. Like that stuff's important. It's why the Suns didn't just win it this year when Kevin Durant showed up.
Yep. I
On
thought they
paper,
did.
yeah, that's probably the most talent there is. But
They
like,
didn't win it. I thought they won it. I missed that.
Hey,
right?
don't worry, they got Frankel steer them straight.
But yeah,
Oh yeah,
so
the
yeah,
Vogelstein.
next year that team might be a real contender. We didn't even mention them when we were talking who could knock off the Nuggets, but like
They have no depth. They're
you
nope.
gotta just they're so good and they're so young. Like just
Run it back. Stop
take
it.
a breath,
Don't be
run
dumb.
it back.
Don't be dumb.
You know, Jordan didn't win his first title till he was 30, 29 maybe.
Something like that. Yep.
Hakeem was like 32.
It happens. Just don't
You know,
freak out.
like
Careful what you wish for, guys.
This
Careful
is
what you wish
exactly
for.
like go back. You talk about Jordan, not exactly the same because he kept getting knocked. Well, it was the Celtics early in the round. And then as he got better, it was the Pistons.
distance.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, this is what happened. I talked about this with Denver over the last couple of years as we got into the playoffs because they finally like they had those moments. Like you had like
Mhm.
you see it with these teams, these historic teams that go on these runs. It's sort of a pattern. Like you watch them go through the resistance. Very rarely do you see a team go in the NBA go and make a one-time championship run out of nowhere
Yep.
and then be back out of the playoff. That's not really how it happens. You work your way up to the rankings. You have
Mhm.
multiple seasons in the playoffs, and then boom.
Kev, did you see the Joker's comments when he talked about how you have to go from bad to good, and then you have to fail, and then you have to learn how to be good, like to great, like the whole. I guess that's a really bad recap of it, but it's those comments. Like it doesn't just happen. And before we get too far away from Danilo Gallinari, random Denver Nugget that was really good for him. I've got his stats pulled up in front of me. I was like, oh, he actually had a good year for them.
That was a sick haul. That was a sick haul they got for Melo because it was Gallinari, Wilson Chandler.
Wilson Chandler was so good in New York too.
I'm pulling this. I got to pull these teams up.
Was it Ty Lawson?
Lawson they drafted.
Oh, that's right. Okay, it might have been Felton.
It was a three-team trade because Billups went over to the Knicks.
I'm gonna pull this roster up. We're gonna have an answer here because you're right.
We're going back in time today.
They also
who the hell else was it? A couple other good young guys, yeah.
Because they
this
did,
is fitting.
They didn't need to trade for him because Melo would have signed with him in the summer.
Yep,
he was coming.
And they
traded everything. Let's go 2000.
That's why you can't get mad at players for not winning championships. You know, Denver shot themselves in the foot right there.
Denver won 50 games the year after trading Melo.
Okay, so 2014-15. I think this is the year he was traded.
Maybe it was that year.
Wilson Chandler, Danilo.
Yeah, they had a good year.
Will Barton. Who was part of that trade?
Ooh, Will Barton.
Let's look it up. Carmelo Anthony trade.
2K hero for me. Love me some Will Barton in a dynasty.
Oh yeah,
it's great. Great little talk about roster depth. The rare.
There's a story.
3-and-D 6'4" 2 guard build.
There's a story about Will Barton scoring like 26 in the first half against the Lakers when Kobe was like 37 and like D'Lo was already there and shit.
Oh,
and then at halftime they were talking about what to do about Will Barton and Kobe said, "No, don't worry about him. I got him second half. I'm gonna guard him." And he had like 2 or like 4 points in the second half. And Kobe was old, and all the young guys were just like, "Oh shit, he's okay. Like he's gonna take this. All right." He like shut up the huddle. He was like, "No, don't worry about a game plan. I'm
the game plan." Yeah.
Okay, so 2011, Nuggets traded Carmelo Anthony to the Knicks along with Chauncey Billups in exchange for Wilson Chandler, Raymond Felton, Danilo Gallinari, Timothy Mozgov, and a 2014 pick, and then a swap rights in 2016.
Mozgov, not Kufis, yeah.
Yep.
Mozgov.
That's a name.
Those kind of guys were just about ready to get overpaid around that time.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I was like, how much did the Cavs pay him again?
Omer Asik was getting a big extension.
And that was when the Knicks were actually really good with D'Antoni before he got there because Stoudemire had like the MVP season. He was awesome.
He had a crazy post bag once he got to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Oh
nice.
yeah. Oh, that's fun.
I'm just looking through this.
Well,
Like
hey, I'm
nice little-
gonna jump off, guys. I still gotta eat.
Thank you for
dinner,
joining us, brother.
Yeah, thanks
No,
for
man.
joining us,
It was a
John.
blast.
Check John out
Wanna
Tuesdays
get
at
your
9 p.m. on Necessary Roughness, right, sir?
Yes, sir. Tuesdays, 8 Central.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a late night bite here and there, and then that's about it. Minnesota Sports Talk on Thursdays generally.
Mhm.
We had Darrell Madison, Alexander Madison's dad, scheduled to come on tonight. We've had him on one time before. Had to reschedule. He got caught up in traffic, so that was going to be at 7. We waited like until 8, and then we were like, all right, we'll just reschedule. So I just hopped in here. But that should be on there soon on Minnesota Sports Talk if you're at all interested in the Vikings.
Nice.
Costa
yeah,
Cofas was somehow part of that trade too, just so you know. Just
was it?
not
Okay.
to interrupt.
All right.
I'm
There
reading
we go.
through it. Somehow he was in there. I don't know how, but he was.
Nice. Got the Kufus one. I thought he was. Couple big old foreigners.
I love it. Well, thanks
Well,
again, John. We
Yeah,
appreciate
no problem,
you.
guys.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate
joining,
ya.
man.
Yeah, take it easy. I'll listen for the rest of it.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate you, sir. We'll see you soon. And that takes us, well, talking about some of these potential trades. This guy won't be traded. Let's move to an upcoming free agent, someone that James knows, well, at least much better than I do. So Fred VanVleet, as
expected,
we predicted right here on the bounce, Fred VanVleet declined his player option. James, what are your thoughts?
$28.8 million he passed up. I think we saw it coming. The Raptors are in no man's land after not doing anything besides trading for somebody at the deadline.
That's right.
I don't think it's a pretty weak free agent class, which makes Fred one of the hottest names on the market. He's still pretty young. He's going to get paid somewhere, and he's going to get himself probably in a better situation.
He's about to be this year's Jalen Brunson, I would think.
Yeah,
I don't know that he'll have the exact same. I think Brunson maybe had a slightly bigger profile because of the playoffs.
Yeah,
he
was
with
so good in
Dallas
the playoffs last year. Yeah.
And then now, absolutely should been. I mean, he's an all-star level player. Even he's an all-star, and so I'm not sure. Fred VanVleet is also an all-star for what it's worth. One-time all-star.
Yes.
So yeah, I think he will, as the kids say, get the bag. He will secure the bag, and as you said, I think he'll find himself in a better situation. Are there any teams sticking out to you as favorites that you're like, I really think Fred's going to go here? Or
I've already said who I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a James Harden-less Philadelphia 76ers. I think he's going to follow his old boss to Philly.
I agree with that. I mean, and for that reason, and then we've been speculating that was honestly, I think that's why him declining came up the first time when we were talking about Nick Nurse going to Philly.
That's exactly what we were talking about. Yes.
Maybe Fred will be there.
I think they're the team. I really do. It's a perfect, just makes sense type deal,
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. So we will move on to the next guy because I don't know that there's a perfect fit for this one. It was originally reported that he was waived, and then it was corrected that he had not been waived, and now he might be traded. I still kind of think he's going to end up getting waived.
I think so too. What kind of trade market's going to be there for you, Kev? Like we were just talking about moves teams need to make to beat the Nuggets. Signing Chris Paul, if he's your starting point guard, you aren't beating the Nuggets. I don't care who else you have.
Yeah, he maybe can start in the playoffs or something,
Yeah, the old Rajon Rondo.
Exactly. He could pull one of those, but otherwise, yeah, I think, even if he's joining, so we've heard the Lakers. I honestly, what I think the most realistic situation is what Chris Paul has already mentioned he might want. and that would be him coming back on a restructured deal to Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like I think they want him there. They just can't.
I think
they
he
know,
wants to be there, and they need to. They gotta free up some space. This one is he talking about Fred or CP3?
Yeah. Let us know, Lee. I got to this comment late, so I'm not sure if you're talking about because I think Fred certainly makes sense. CP3, yeah, he says Van Vliet. Yep. So
Yeah,
Van
that
Vliet to
would
the
be
Spurs. What do you think about that?
3 young guys. You're drafting Wemby, and then you throw Fred on there as your elder statesman. Like man, that's kind of why I kind of weirdly love that.
Fred under Pop's tutelage
Yeah.
as well.
He traded away Deontay last year, so you don't have a guy like, man, that's fun.
I like
That is
that
fun,
a lot.
Lee. That's fun.
Because they have some other guys we've talked about on this show before. Branham is one that I'm pretty high on that I think is going to elevate his game in San Antonio. So I think they have a few other guys around that.
Keldon Johnson, Sochan.
Yep.
I've got even Wemby article. Yeah, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, and Devin Vassell. Like they've got young guys.
Yeah, they're gonna do some things. So that'll be interesting. Now, another player that has been reportedly today been mentioned in some trade talks has been Zach LaVine. So another situation where we've kind of been here before, and Zach re-signed with the Bulls, and now we were saying so many of the same things about Chicago that we said about Toronto.
Yes.
Going into the All-Star break and into the trade deadline, that this almost feels like a rinse and repeat of the last segment.
Yep.
But here we are. Zach LaVine, maybe the Bulls are going to move on from him. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me because earlier reports I saw said that they wanted to keep Vucevic and continue to build around him. And if you're going to get rid of LaVine, you have to get rid of Vucevic because what are we talking about?
I would think LaVine would be the one guy you'd keep, even if you're blowing it up. Like he's young. Like the worry with him is he did lose a lot of explosiveness this year after the knee surgery. So you hope that comes back in year 2. He kind of struggled around the rim, but he's the guy I'm keeping. Like, you're going to get the most return for him. You're like, if you're trying to just reload, rebuild, like problem is you're too late. Like there is no Victor Wembanyama next year. Like there's going to be good players obviously, but there ain't him.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention we continue to, it's easy to do, but like Scoot Henderson could very well be a generational player that someone Chicago could use, especially if they had if you rebuild and blow the whole thing up. Even if you don't quite get Victor, maybe you get Scoot. And not to mention you could have maybe gotten a higher asking price when trading these players to contenders last year.
It's different now, like for a playoff run, like it's different
you cut out some of their value to some of those teams that might have looked at this and said, "Oh, I can have Zach LaVine for a playoff run and for a few more years after that. Oh yeah, that is worth this to me." Lee brings a good point though, that LaVine is always getting hurt. That could have an impact on his trade value. So I think it'll be interesting. No teams really stick out to me. This is one I've been thinking about it. When the Bradley Beal trade got announced, I think there were several teams that instantly, I think the Celtics had to go out and announce that they weren't interested or something. You know what I mean? You've got a bunch of teams who are like, okay, Bradley Beal could fit here. I don't know how I feel about LaVine. Like there's no team that sticks where I'm like, oh man, if this team just had Zach LaVine.
Yes. It's a weird thing to say.
I feel bad, but I wonder if he is just that second level guy. I wonder if he's just better off being a team's second or third option.
His stats scream that. Like, yes, he averaged 24 a game, but
and
yes,
as if on cue,
he's right.
Does
with
that
DeMar and Vucevic, like 4 assists a game. He does shoot 38% career from 3, but he's not a huge playmaker. Like he absolutely screams second tier star. Like put him with an all-star, a stud, and now you've got something.
Exactly, and it's funny. Yeah, he really does. It echoes DeMar DeRozan, and then you've got two of those same level guys right there. And Vucevic is that guy again. I think Vucevic's a great third option when you have a solid number one option. He's the guy that in a playoff series with the right matchup, you can say, hey, you're oversized, like you are going to dominate your matchup, and
Mhm.
we're going to make you a much bigger part of the game plan this time around. But yeah, he's not a guy you build a team around.
Vucevic is older. Vucevic is 32. Like Levine's 28, 29. DeMar's 33. Like,
Keeping Vucevic only makes sense if you're keeping Levine and you're not
yeah.
if you're staying on that track, however misguided I believe it to be, that you were on at the All-Star break and at the trade deadline when you said, "Oh no, we're going to hold firm." Like that's the only way keeping Vucevic
Mhm.
makes sense to me, is if you're saying, "Okay, we're going to be buyers this offseason. We're going to try to bring more
Yep.
talent in." Otherwise, no, it makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Their whole situation is just screwed because of the injury to Lonzo Ball. It just messed everything up.
Yeah, and I mean,
Sucks.
and they may have someone somewhere messed that up too, because I don't know how it got out when it got out that
Yeah, like
someone tweeted that behind closed doors, the Bulls don't know that he'll ever play again. Like, you
how
can't
does that can't get out?
listen. It's a tough gig,
Mhm. Yes.
James. We all hear
Lee, thanks for
things.
calling me old because I'm about the same. I'm older than him, so thanks, bud.
Appreciate that one, Lee. Yeah, but no,
Uh,
listen, it's tough. You know,
yeah.
we all hear things that we can't share. It's one of the burdens. It's like it's a blessing and a curse with this job. You know,
Yep.
like not everything you hear can you go run out and report and talk about. And it just blows my mind that someone within the Bulls organization, who do you say that to?
I don't know.
I can't imagine saying something like that to someone that I didn't actually trust
Yeah,
to
that's
keep the secret. It's
yeah.
just unbelievable
Yes, there was some
misstep there.
relationship ruin there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, okay. Johnny would like, who is that? You would like Vucevic in Sacktown, or are you talking about Lonzo?
Or
Because
DeMar or Levine. We've gone a lot of ways with this.
any of the Bulls.
Lee, I would have never guessed that. I had asked Trev the other day if you were his grandpa. I thought you're just one of the boys with us, man. We
He is
appreciate you.
absolutely 100%. And while we wait I want to see what John,
Yeah, I
who
don't know
John
what he
would
was
like
saying.
in Sacramento. But I want to bring, okay, so a name that has been brought up a couple of times today, once by Kendrick Perkins as a potential signing by the Heat, and someone he would rather them spend money on than Bradley Beal, would be Russell Westbrook, who I also saw that the Clippers are willing to re-sign for the
I saw the
veterans
Clippers thing.
minimum.
Yeah.
So this has me in a couple of spots. Now, I'm going to ask you my first question, James. Do you think Russ will sign anywhere for the veterans minimum?
No. Well,
Okay,
I think he'll.
I
I don't
didn't think
he'll
so.
try. I don't think he'll try to not sign for it. Yeah.
I personally, I think he's more valuable than just the vets minimum, in my opinion, depending on the franchise. But are you going to give Chris Paul the vet minimum? Chris
Yeah,
Paul may be a
exactly.
better player. He's going to play 20 games. Russ is going to play the full season for you coming off the bench. I don't know that he's going to agree to that. Now, and then my second question for you would be, Kendrick Perkins says the Heat should not go after Bradley Beal. They need someone who will attack the rim and go downhill, which tells me, A, Kendrick hasn't watched Bradley Beal play very much basketball.
Mm-hmm.
However, just thinking about it, money wise, I can understand you wanting to go get a cheaper option. When I think about the spacing in a Jimmy Butler, Russ Westbrook, Bam Adebayo led, like Tyler
They're going to be running
Hero,
a triangle in there. Those three.
yeah, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, if they are there, they're going to look like that exhausted Jimmy meme after the finals, but
Yes.
for every single game, because they're going to
Yes.
have to be running like Reggie Miller and
think-
Rip Hamilton on steroids off screens trying to get open.
I think Lee hits it on the head with this comment.
Yes. Oh, yes. While we're, can I nominate that Kendrick Perkins replace Shannon Sharp on Undisputed?
Oh, it'd be-
so I
oh,
can just
yeah, come
never
on,
watch
yes.
that show again.
Yes. Put them together so you never have to see it. So, no, I think that's stupid. I don't want Russell Westbrook anywhere near the Heat. Get away.
Yeah, I don't like it. If Kyle Lowry all of a sudden retires and then the Heat just need a true backup point guard,
Is he gonna accept that role? Is he gonna Kyle Lowry it and accept that role though? No.
Maybe in a year or two. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Get back to me in 2 years when Russ has embraced his
Yes.
backup role, in which case I might be okay with it. But John,
Mhm.
going back to Levine, he likes Levine in Sacramento. Now, when I think about the
Interesting.
trade, it worries me because I
What
think the Kings would have to give up maybe
something.
too much in return. And I'm trying to think how would that, I like it. Like
A lot of future draft capital be involved, but there's got to be some players to make the money work, and that would be
yeah. So who is it? Like Malik Monk is a name that in
yeah.
my mind, I
Who had a
think you
pretty
could probably
dang
put in
good
there.
playoff run this year. I mean, I guess they only played one series, but he was good in that series, man. I'm gonna pull up Sacramento's roster.
It's one of
right
those
now.
things. Yeah. I mean, Monk is very inconsistent. He went, I think he had 40 points off the bench one night and then the next night had 6. So you'll have that with him. But Lee
Oh, the
says, what
Kings.
about Fox? Yeah. Go ahead.
The Kings don't have a ton on the books. It's Fox, Sabonis, Herter at 15, Rashawn Holmes at 12.
Oh,
Malik only has 9.9, so he really doesn't work.
Okay, so it wouldn't really be him.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Herter then.
Herter maybe, but man, they just signed him and he was great. I don't see that happen. Or they just traded for him. And Lee, there's no way the Kings are trading De'Aaron Fox. They love that man.
I remember thinking when the Sabonis trade went through,
Bet you might get him there.
as a Pacers fan, I remember thinking, there's no way the Kings will give us Halliburton. Maybe we'll get lucky and get De'Aaron Fox. And
Yep.
then the Kings were like, no, De'Aaron Fox is our guy. And I think it was a win-win because then De'Aaron
I
Fox
stand
went
by
out
that.
to be
That's one of the few trades that works in both teams. They were like Fox is blown up,
Yeah.
and Halliburton has been exactly.
Not that
everything you
Fox
guys wanted.
wouldn't have succeeded in Indiana, but Halliburton has been the player that the Pacers need
Yes.
to facilitate. Whereas what the Kings have needed is someone along Sabonis to dominate and take those clutch game-winning shots. And so it worked out. But yeah, even back then, most objective people, because of the age, the size, and the skill set, thought Tyrese Halliburton actually was the bigger or better asset than De'Aaron Fox. So we were surprised. A lot of us Pacers fans like, wait, you're gonna give us Halliburton?
Yep.
All right. And healed. Okay. I mean, thanks for the Tristan Thompson salary dump, but it is what it is. Yeah. So I don't think De'Aaron Fox is going anywhere. The Levine thing, I would like him more in Sacramento as a free agent signing. I don't like the idea. So when you talk about teams, young teams you want to see run it back. I want to see the Kings add a little bit of depth to this core and just run it back.
They just happened to run into
some of those trials.
Golden State in the first round. It was just a bad time, wrong place, wrong time type deal.
Because the Kings did that Grizzlies thing that the Grizzlies did a couple years ago, but they don't have the turmoil. They don't have the off-court issues. They don't have the clown who likes to poke bears. They don't have any of that stuff. So I would say let them run it back, let them get to the second round or the Western Conference Finals and get knocked out again because they aren't good enough. They won't be good enough to get to the finals, but give them more time. Sabonis, I mean, he's phenomenal. His father is one of those what if players that we all wish if only the NBA had gotten hipper to the European talent earlier in life, we wouldn't have had to wait until Art Venus was our age to be playing in the NBA on 2 broken feet. And even then he had, some of the best post moves in the game. So I expect DeMontis to continue to grow in his role and De'Aaron Fox as well. So I think Sacramento, we didn't mention them as a team, and that's because I don't think next year they are a team, but in 2 years,
Lee's right.
They could be right there with Denver.
Yep, Lee's right.
Oh, whoops, sorry, I double clicked it. What I meant was the Kings would not give up Fox, so Levine would not work there. 100%.
Yes.
We're with you on that one.
Yep.
All right. So
Kev, I got a wild stat for you that you reminded me of. So you mentioned the NBA Finals, okay? So here's one I'm gonna throw at you, and this is wild. Since 2011, okay, the Miami Heat and Golden State Warriors one of them has been in every single finals except one. Except one, which was 2021, was the Bucks Suns. However, they've never played each other in the finals.
That is insane. Can we get that once? Golden State, Miami.
So
I wouldn't be
that's
mad
since
about it.
2011. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
12
8,
years?
9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years. I thought it was 13. I wanted to count it before I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I wanted to
Counting
count. So I
11, yeah.
counted it like a wild man. But yeah, so 13
That's
years,
nuts.
only 1 year, one of them wasn't in it, and they have never played each other, which is crazy.
That is insane. It's hard. Yeah. The LeBron Heat era feels so far away. It really wasn't all that long ago. But that's what happens when a guy plays 20 plus years in the league.
Yep. That's my ridiculous stat I found on the internet today.
I do love that one. That is definitely a candidate. That's a cool stat, bro, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got 2 more potential trade guys that we can talk about. I know we're kind of winding it down here.
Mm-hmm.
So let me bring this one up. We talked about this a lot.
Please,
in our post
somewhere else.
Yeah. This is
I want him in Miami.
Segment. Doing
Put
right
him
by
in-
Dame.
Send
Okay,
him to Miami. If we're going to trade Tyler Hero, let's put Damian Lillard in Miami.
That one's interesting because the only reason I think Miami can get away with trading for Beal is because of that contract not matching his talent level. And so you can say, all right.
Yeah. This is the best we're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I'm just
I don't know that.
hypothetical.
Yeah, for sure. And that leads me to what I was going to say. I don't know that there is a single team in this league that can trade for Dame without involving a third party. I think no matter who goes after Dame, we're likely to see a 3-team deal here.
Probably right. Yep.
In order to get the assets to work for Portland.
That's
Do you think there's any chance? Think there's any chance they because they seem to be willing to trade their 3rd overall pick and Anthony Simons to try to look at that. Yeah. Look at that. I love that stat.
Not an all-star though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Wally's eyes are back.
Not bad for a wannabe, huh? Yeah. Wow.
You're gonna tell me they're gonna trade that pick for somebody and try to load up around Dame, and yes, that's what they're going to do, and I hate it because they're just gonna still not be good enough.
No, I agree with that. I think they should not do that. Listen, I'm gonna turn so y'all can see the flag. Pacers purgatory. I have preached. I have stood on my imaginary pulpit throughout this entire first season of the Bounce, saying, "Do not do this." You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And unfortunately, Portland, it is time. You need to.
You missed it. You missed your
assets
window.
Out. You have this golden goose. Trade it for something before.
Get back lots of golden eggs.
Yes. Otherwise, Father Time wins all of these battles.
Exactly. And he's at his peak. Like, he doesn't have many years left at his peak. He's 30-something. Do it. Do right by him. And
he's right.
Just destroy somebody's franchise in the process. Take everything they have.
It's going to be a difficult move to make.
Yeah. Ask for all their first-round picks for the next 6 years. Don't start them for at least 5. We want them after that.
And that's where it's got to be. It's got to be a third team then, right? Yeah. Because Dame's not going to want to go there, and he doesn't have that no trade clause either. But yeah, I don't know.
Man, I have a bad feeling he's going to be back in Portland next year, and it's just going to be.
Yeah, I have a feeling we have seen that movie before, and this last guy. Well, we'll be talking about him a little more on our Late Night Bites program because that's where we get into the wacky world of sports and talk about Twitter beefs and just random stuff, but may have nothing to do with certain bits of infamy online. But Zion has been reportedly a topic of trade rumors. Let's just put it that way. James, do you see Zion being traded in any of these draft day trades? Is there any situation you see him not in New Orleans next year?
I think he's in New Orleans. I think one of the biggest problems is it's tricky to gauge his value because he hasn't finished any of the last 3 seasons. He missed a whole season. When he's healthy, can be really dominant, but he's hurt all the dang time. I think that puts a weird cap. Yes, Lee, it would be like the Oakland A's up there.
Ooh, we'll talk about this one in a second, John.
Yeah. My answer is I don't think they can do it. I don't think New Orleans can do it. I think they got to try it one more year and pray that his body holds up, which is probably not going to. But I mean, remember in December they were the best team. They had the best record in the West. Now they didn't finish with that, but
I
Ingram got
know.
hurt, missed like 30 games. Zion
Hello,
missed 30
darkness,
games.
my old friend. Yep.
Somebody could get tricked into it. Let me tell you, somebody could get tricked into it. But
Charlotte.
I think the price would be lower than you'd expect because of the injuries. And then
Yeah,
the
but
team
it's
getting
Charlotte, right?
Yeah, right.
Because A, Michael Jordan, and B, the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah.
So
I thought
you
Michael
could-
Jordan sold his stake in that team.
Oh, maybe he did.
thought
Maybe
he did.
just the stain of his bad decision making continues to rub off on the front office. But okay, so A, it's the Hornets front office. They're not incredibly smart. B, he went to Duke and he would sell a shit ton of tickets.
Yes.
I think in
That place
Charlotte.
would sell out. Yes.
And then the hypothetical of LaMelo and Zion, like
Yeah.
that is NBA Jam levels of video game alley oops. You know that.
Yes, that's
that
Lob
could sell
City
a lot of
territory.
tickets. Yeah.
All
I
right,
love
so-
John's response to who the hell would want Zion. The actresses of a certain performing arts.
Yep.
John pitches a trade here. Wolves trade Cat for a number 2 or 3 pick and a couple players, which would then turn into Anthony Edwards plus my man Scoot. James, what are your thoughts on that?
Is Scoot more of a 1 or is he the same? Like, how's
Scoot's
that?
a
How's
1.
He is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he's good. He's an attacking
don't
and
know,
scoring 1, but he's a 1. Yeah.
Man, them boys would be coming downhill at you fast.
Mhm.
They'd be bowling balls down. I don't hate it. Like, it's a bold
If you can
move.
keep Conley there too, like,
to
and
kind of
I'm
help
getting,
him train,
yeah,
mentor him. Then it's Rudy inside. Like, then your Twin Towers whoops is not a whoops anymore. It's gone. I don't hate this. Like, I don't hate it. It's bold. It's very bold.
I wonder if a team that's in the second or third spot would want that. Like, I don't know if it's enough. I know I've been hard on Karl Anthony Towns for the last hour and a half. but
Charlotte's too.
yes. Oh yeah, they might do it.
Would they?
I don't know. I don't. They might do anything.
I mean,
I don't trust them
Do you think
at
does the
all.
NBA view Karl Anthony Towns like he views himself? Because if
I
so,
don't
then
think so.
Then the Spurs are going to trade for him.
I don't. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, in theory, I like this, John. Jaden McD and re-sign Naz Reid. Yeah, I would like that a lot. I wonder if the 2 or 3 spots, because what's that? That's Charlotte and Portland, right?
Yeah.
Is
Wow. Is Cat going to Portland enough?
is that enough to convince Dame? It's not enough to convince me. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah,
But
that makes me mad.
it makes me sad for Dame and Anthony
if-
Simons,
if-
because then I'm like, oh no, now you're never gonna get the
Yes.
ball.
Yeah, because if the Hornets pass on Scoot, which could happen because of LaMelo,
Yeah, Scoot
3
doesn't make
is
sense
right.
for them. They've
Yeah.
they've seen this before. They've had LaMelo and Terry Rozier for the
Yeah.
last 2 years. Them drafting Scoot makes not a
But
lot of
what-
sense.
So 2 doesn't work, but what if you have all 3? You just roll them all out there at the
Then you
same
just
time.
lineup of death. Yeah, then you just
Yeah.
hope you play the
Yeah,
Warriors
it's
every
the
night.
Warriors' old death lineup.
Yeah.
As long as you're at home against the Warriors, you'll win. Yeah, 3 becomes right for the picking if Scoot doesn't get taken there. And I hate that idea, and just don't. Just stop it, John. Do not ruin James' career even more.
Lee, I also hope Scoot keeps his head on straight. And John says that package might be Simons and the number 3 for wow.
The GOAT,
I mean,
the GOAT of big men.
yeah, it could be. I don't know. I like that in theory. It might take multiple trades, right? It might mean somebody trades out of 3 and then you trade in 2 with I like
This could be.
I like your odds of trading
I
with
think there's
Charlotte.
going to be more
I think.
trading this year. I think there's going to be more movement there than in years past because of fit at those spots.
It certainly seems that way. And I also think because of the way they're restructuring salary caps and the certain, like I said, there are certain contracts that used to be available to teams that aren't available to teams now So I believe we'll see some reshuffling of assets and teams making some trades. I agree with you. I think we'll see a lot of action this time around.
Yep, I agree. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
By
the way, we will be going live during next week. We're gonna start early next week. Gonna be 7. We're gonna go 7:30, right? Eastern, 6:30.
Yeah, 7:30 Eastern. We're gonna get there a little bit early so we can give you our preview before the draft goes live.
Give our little preview beforehand, talk about anything that we're hearing, and then we are going to be live for the whole thing. We're going to bring a bunch of guests on. John doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be invited. Nate, we're going to try to get some other people that have been on here. So back on here. That was weird phrasing there. Phrasing.
back. We will be back Thursday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, right here. And in the meantime, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you can check out our friend John and our other friends Nick and Michael on Necessary Roughness every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. They have been going through the best players at each position over the last few weeks. So you can look into that if you want to see where your team's best players line up, or maybe you're looking for a little fantasy advice. And after you check out NR, if you are looking for that fantasy advice, be sure to tune in to Trevor and Dan, Another Damn Fantasy podcast, Wednesday nights at 8. And then, of course, the Rumbles of Red, where Trevor talks about some best ball. I had the pleasure of joining him for a best ball draft. Unfortunately, I kind of made him waste his money. He put together, I mean, you should check it out. He still managed to salvage a good team despite my my best ball inadequacies. I'm more of a redraft guy myself.
Inadequacies, I think, is
there we go.
Looking for.
Yeah, easy for me. See, I'm so inadequate I can't even say it properly. But there we go. Not to mention, as Lee points out, we have a bite and early tomorrow with Trevor Friday mornings. Be sure to tune in. I will make sure my alarm is set, so I am there watching and in the comments. So I'm sure Trevor's got a lot of stuff to go over for you on a Friday morning. So James, any final thoughts or send off to the folks at home?
No, we'll be back here 7:30 next week. You can catch me on social media right there, Schmeitz06, that one. That's all I got this week, man. I'm very excited. The draft's gonna be fun next week. It's weird how fast it is after the finals compared to the NBA draft, which is so many months later. It's just very weird.
Yeah, we get to get it nice and quick, and then we'll be into more free agents and all that stuff. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you're subscribed. If you want to hear more of our thoughts on Dame and Chris Paul, go check out our Game 5 recap stream when we did a post game of the NBA Finals. We had Nate on talking about a bunch of different things, whether there was another team that could have fared well against the Nuggets. Go check that out if you're interested. And in the meantime, we thank you so much for being here. We'll be back again soon. Take care.
Thanks, guys.